There we go. How you doing, Chad? Yo, what's up, everybody? We'll be getting started at 4. George, see you're here. Dope.
Oh, my mic was off. Nice.
Yes.
I just told a really good story. You all missed it.
Dang. Yeah, I didn't hear it. Let's make sure that JP.
Do we have both of the arcade people on yet? Just one.
Just one. I sent him the invite.
Okay.
Here we go.
Yeah, I was saying I was just reading a big post from Navic on Gala Games and their whole ecosystem,
Right.
and then I was also looking at the prices for Guild of Guardians guilds, which were it's like $700 guild, and then it jumped to 7,000 for a 30-person, and then 50,000 for 40-person.
Yep.
And then $1.7 million for 50-person.
Yo, what's up, JP? Hey, Arcade. That's crazy. It's interesting their model with those essentially limiting the amount of guilds that can be in their ecosystem, which is probably beneficial for them.
Really interesting. I feel like they'll release more, people release more land, but
yeah.
All right, we got Arcade here. Let's do this.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Yo, what's up? Yo. Dope. So thank you all for joining us today.
Still a lot going on in crypto at the market, and you guys are one of the big things that we're super interested to hear about. I think
awesome.
We first got to know you guys at Arcade maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and yeah, everything was way different back then. So I'm curious just to hear where you guys are at right now, and what is Arcade at the current moment. How does it fit into crypto gaming?
Yeah, so we've been building for about 6 months, and 6-7 months. Been a wild ride already, but we are very proud to have accomplished a lot during that amount of time. And kind of how we relate to GameFi at the moment and play to earn gaming is, we're building, we're investing capital into play to earn games that are coming to market. We're trying to educate ourselves as much as possible on the space and the actors within it. We're just trying to support the communities that are building and kind of, paving the way for what GameFi can be. We've got a lot of really great partners, and we're continuing to build and build out that list, and meet new people, collaborate in ways such as this, and just try to give back to the community as much as possible.
Yeah, that's I feel like at GamerSpeak we took a lot of the similar approach, which was just when we first got started, it was wow, this the network of just target crypto gaming, it's also still pretty small. So all grow together, because there's just so many mutually beneficial relationships out there to be had, and we succeed at least even more quickly than alone. All together we can succeed much faster.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, we're so early to.
So I know what we wanted to dive into today was specifically deep into your mission pools, because I think this is a very familiar term in gaming, like a mission. And you guys are adding this word pool to it, and it seems like some sort of GameFi, utility. So yeah, I really wanted to kind of hear more about that.
For sure. So essentially, a mission pool is it's basically a derivative of any kind of in-game activity within the play to earn space. So when we say mission pool, it doesn't necessarily have to be like a predefined parameter or goal that's within the game. It can really be anything that requires skill or time
Hello?
for a player to. Hello. Oh, am I not coming through?
No, JP, you are. I think Chad's having some like lag issues or something.
Yeah, yeah, Chad, you're lagging out a little bit. But yeah, JP, we could hear everything. You're good.
Okay. No problem. So, essentially the derivative aspect of it is, anything that can be actioned upon within a game can be derived down into a mission pool. And these mission pools are then, the arcade token holders are able to take those arcade tokens, the utility token, and contribute it to these mission pools. And in that effect, it kind of works like a staking pool. And you deposit your tokens temporarily. Those tokens are never at risk, and you're kind of carving out your piece of the yield that's being generated by that in-game activity. So it's a way for people to get exposure to a wide range of play-to-earn games without the need to actually own the NFT or understand the complexity of all of these different play-to-earn games. The arcade platform itself is kind of gamified in that regard. It's kind of like a grand strategy game of figuring out the best way to get your exposure to GameFi. So we're trying to make that experience as fun as possible. But in the grand scheme of things, some people just don't have 40 hours a week to commit to, being a Star Atlas master, right? Or being the best Illuvium player in the world, or running a tavern in Miranda's. Like, some people just don't have the time that's needed to do that properly. So the arcade platform kind of lowers that barrier, and our mission pools make it possible for people to get a piece of that exposure in a more simplified way.
Right. And you mentioned that, we're still so early in the blockchain gaming world. What mission pools are you currently seeing that are the most solidified, that you're able to really push out as an example?
Yeah, so we have pretty heavy involvement in the Star Atlas ecosystem, the Illuvium ecosystem. We've got solid exposure to AFA, if you're familiar, and ASM. So these are probably the primary examples that I can share at the moment. We do have quite a few, dozens even, of other games that we're researching and in discussion with. What can make a mission pool is actually pretty flexible. The biggest,
Right.
I think, I don't know if barrier is the right word, but I guess the biggest factor to if it makes a good mission pool or not is, do we think that ecosystem is going to be sustainable? Because we're big on sustainability. It doesn't do us a lot of good to have a mission pool that only lasts for a month because we think the game is going to be very short lived. So we try to kind of back and support the ecosystems and the developers that are building things we think are sustainable.
Cool. So just to reiterate for those who don't understand what a mission pool is yet, it's Arcade who's picking these mission pools to host, or is there someone else who is essentially hosting those mission pools?
Yeah, so there's a couple different actors within our little ecosystem. So we have what's called a mission pool operator, and that is abbreviated as an MPO. And a mission pool operator is a game guild or a professional player that their expertise is using that NFT to the best of its ability, or to extract the most value possible using that NFT. So the mission pool operator works in collaboration with the arcade team to determine what mission pools should be created. So Arcade owns all of these NFTs. We then partner with the game guilds, which bring the labor and the experience and the knowledge, the skill to operate these NFTs, and there's a collaborative effort there. to create the mission pool. And then the other side of the equation is what's called a mission pool contributor, or MPC. And the mission pool contributors are basically the arcade token holders. So the people that have the token and contribute or deposit that token into the mission pools to kind of get their piece of that in-game activity.
Cool. Do you have a concrete example that you can possibly give, possibly in Star Atlas or Illuvium, that can help people get, their mind around this really great idea, which is really, you're taking the aspects of GameFi and you're pushing it further to a broader audience. What is a concrete example of this?
Yeah, so we haven't launched the platform quite yet. That's coming in the next few months. But
Cool.
I can give an example based on a game that is coming to market, soon, and that would be Illuvium. So Illuvium is doing a land sale soon, actually within a week. And what that would look like within a mission pool is, Illuvium land, they say it's going to take, 30 minutes to an hour a day of playing that land to use it to the best of its ability, right? And there's going to be a skill gap there where you have to kind of know how things go. You have to understand where you should put your buildings on this piece of land to maximize the efficiency. All things that require time and require the knowledge of a player to best utilize. So what that looks like for a mission pool is we Arcade go and buy the land from Illuvium. We then partner with a game guild that knows all of these things. They have the people, they have the knowledge, they have the skill to use the land properly. We partner with that game guild to create a mission pool. Let's say, for example, that mission pool in this circumstance is 30 days of managing a piece of Illuvium land. So there's earnings, right? There's rewards that are being generated from Illuvium for that activity over the course of 30 days. At the end of that 30-day period, the people that staked their tokens or deposited their tokens into that mission pool get back their proportional share of the rewards that were generated during that period of time. So that's kind of how that would look. You would go in and you would deposit your tokens. You'll see ahead of time, oh, this is a 30-day mission pool for harvesting Illuvium land. And then you deposit your tokens. In 30 days, you come back, you withdraw, you take your percentage of the rewards that were generated. You get that back as the arcade token. That arcade token then can be, used again into a new mission pool, or you can exit the ecosystem and swap that back into, any other token that you want on Radium or a central exchange.
Yeah, that was explained really well. Thank you. I wanted to jump in on some more specific aspects of the mission pool. Like, how will you educate the users on kind of the potential of the pool, or the lucrativeness of the pool, or even people who might not necessarily know what Illuvium is as a game? Like, I'm curious if that's even part of the target audience or not.
Yeah. So, in terms of our target audience, I think a big part of it is people that either don't have the time, energy, or knowledge to keep up with GameFi, right? But they want exposure to it. So with that comes the responsibility, like you said, to educate people on what they're getting into. So we're going to have resources available that, either on site or through one of our partners, to educate people and have documentation, like an encyclopedia of sorts, for each of the games that we support, so that people have the resources to read up on what it is, what they're getting involved in. But beyond that, our platform itself is very data driven. So, we keep a lot of metrics on what earnings have been achieved with certain types of activities. Because everything is happening in real time, we're not able to predict returns, right? Because when we start a mission pool for 30 days of Illuvium land harvesting, we can't say this is the rewards you're going to get, because that 30-day period hasn't passed yet. There is a scenario where a game guild does something exceptionally well and the reward is higher than it's been in the past, right? So it is all done in real time. So with that in mind, we can historically show, okay, the past 10 times that, a tier 4 Illuvium land has been managed, here is the range of rewards that have come through. And then our users are able to look at that database and say, okay, historically speaking, this is kind of what I can expect, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe I like the Star Atlas missions more because the percent that I'm getting a return on is higher than it would be with Illuvium if this historical data holds true, right? So we try to be as data driven as possible, but without making guarantees. As far as the ease of use goes, we have a few different tiers of the platform. We have an open version of the platform where you're able to go in and out of these mission pools at your own discretion. And then we have an accredited side of the platform that will be for people that have gone through an accreditation process for a more a more automated experience. Not entirely automated, but the ability to have something that's a little bit more hands-off because they went through the accreditation. So we kind of have something for everyone in that regard. We are a U.S. company, so we're complying to regulations as we need to. But we're going to have kind of something for everyone in that regard, because it kind of goes back to our initial ethos that we're trying to bring more money into the GameFi space. And in order to do that, you really have to tap into traditional finance a little bit. And your average hedge fund doesn't really have the time to go and keep up with GameFi, and maybe they don't want to have to go in and check on their mission pools once a week or whatever. So we need to have an accredited side of the platform that can bring in that $10 million ticket from a hedge fund without the need for them to go in there and manage it quite as intensely as an individual retail investor would. We have a few different layers to try to bring as much money into the space as possible, because we're trying to help GameFi grow it in general.
That's incredible. Do you really think that some sort of hedge fund will come in with $10 million?
Yeah, so I'm just kind of throwing numbers around, right? But what we have seen is that hedge funds and venture capital and very large accredited investors, they're always looking for the next big thing that's kind of in an emergent space. And we've seen Meta and Microsoft and all of these larger companies, Activision, Blizzard, coming into the metaverse, and people are starting to take notice of that. So there are institutions that are looking to deploy a small percentage of their capital into a higher risk, higher reward investment like GameFi. So part of what Arcade's trying to do is create a platform that's very user-friendly or accommodating for accredited investors that are looking for a place to park their capital, because they're currently getting 3 to 5%, and they're happy with that, right? But if you come into GameFi, we might be able to provide them with 50%, right, which is low for crypto degens like us, but maybe we can provide them with 50% and they just 10x their return, right? So it's higher risk, but it's also higher reward. So, we're kind of taking that battle to them, so to speak. We're providing the platform, and then Arcade's team is going to go out and try to onboard this traditional money into the space and provide more liquidity for everyone.
Earlier, when you were talking about the yield that people can get, what I see a lot these days in terms of how speculators are buying into games is they'll look at like a calculator. I think Curbata even released like an internal calculator on their white paper just to make it easy for the community to calculate returns. But do you plan on using something like that to show the users of Arcade what the yield would be if the market were as it were today for the next 30 days? Or are you just going to leave expected yield completely blank?
Yeah, expected yield is either going to be completely blank. I think it's probably going to be completely blank, and I don't want to speak over our legal counsel, so I don't want to get too specific. I think one thing that I think would be interesting is if there's a way to calculate based on the historical data an average and then use that as expected, but it link back to it saying this is based on historical data. I don't know if that is crossing any lines. Like I said, we're very careful that we are doing things by the book because we are a U.S. company. We don't want to be shut down for regulatory purposes, but we are trying to, while staying compliant, make this as user-friendly as possible. But, I think that when people have the knowledge and the resources that we provide, they're kind of able to make their own determination on what the expected return would be, especially if we make it very easy for them to see historical data. On the mission pool, maybe at the very bottom of it, without even having to click off the page, you see, historically speaking, here are the last 5. And people are very easily able to make their own calculations. We have to be very careful not to guarantee returns, because not only does that, cross into security lines, but that is also a situation where, if a game guild, let's say, because everyone needs to understand the risks associated with it as well. If a game guild fails to complete their activity, the return can be zero, right? So maybe every month leading up to that, the return was 1,000, whatever, 1,000 Atlas tokens, and then on mission number 11, that game guild gets raided by pirates and they lose their ship, and the return on that mission is zero. So you never lose your xArcade tokens. That always, your initial capital that you put into it is always safe. But there is always the potential for the return to be zero. So then you just wasted your time, right? You didn't waste capital, but you wasted time. With that in mind, we can't really give guaranteed or even expected returns because it could be anywhere from 0 to 100%, right?
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question. Like, is there a situation where you could guarantee returns in a particular type of pool or particular type of game?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess speaking to the in-game activity itself, I guess the only time that it could ever be guaranteed on the back end, right? We would never guarantee on the front end, but on the back end, the only time it would ever be guaranteed is if it's something that requires no involvement from the game guild partner. Because if there's ever any human interaction that's required, that leaves a potential room for error. And the mission pools themselves are pretty much always going to require a game guild partner because Arcade doesn't actually operate any of these NFTs. So, the deduction there, I guess, is that there is always going to be the potential for something to go wrong because human error happens. And all mission pools require human interaction from a game guild.
That leads kind of perfectly into my next question about these mission pool operators, which are guilds or are some kind of player expert type of person to maximize the yield of the NFT. But those people, how will they be sort of, validated that they're trustworthy or they are going to actually generate that yield? Is that on the duty of the user to kind of research who that guild will be, or is that something that Arcade will do?
Yes, that's a great question. Arcade is going to have a very highly selective vetting process. Not just anyone is going to be able to come in and become a mission pool operator. We might be able to get to that point somewhere in the future, but especially starting out, it's going to be highly selective, held to only partners or people that Arcade has vetted. We know who they are. We have their information. Like if they were to do anything malicious, we have ways to, ways that we can go about that. So, the initial situation is a little bit more based on trust, but that is that is why we have a partner guild, Banana DAO, that is operating these NFTs initially. And to kind of cement that relationship, Arcade actually, some of the same people from Arcade's team own that gaming guild. So we're able to have a kind of trusted, trustless relationship because there is, ownership overlap. But, we are actively looking into on-chain ways to make this a trustless solution. There just isn't really good ways to trustlessly assign out an NFT with zero risk. Now, there are some games that are building it in. We have Star Atlas that's working on building it in, Alluvium. There's some others like, other smaller ones like Fancy Birds that have this in-game lending built into the game. So we have that, and then we also have partners like IQ Protocol. They're one of our backers and partners. They're a sub-project from Parsec, and they're working on-chain lending for gaming NFTs in a trustless way. So you'll be able to kind of use a wrapped version of an NFT within a game without relinquishing custody of it. So there's a few different angles that we're trying to kind of hit at the same time. We're working on, initially a trusted basis, but we already have balls in motion for trustless solutions on chain.
Man, that's really reassuring to hear that you guys are going to go through a highly selective vetting process for guilds or players because, there's a lot involved. There's a lot of people who can be in a pool at one time. Actually, that's a good question. Like, how many users would be in a pool, or is there a sort of minimum deposit of sorts, or like, what is the size of a typical pool?
Yeah.
Like anything like that you can share?
Yeah, so the minimum is going to be incredibly low. I think in the contract we set it to one xArcade token, which is going to be cents or dollars, right? It's not going to be like $100 minimum. So the minimum is going to be very low barrier to entry, because that kind of goes back to our ethos a little bit. We're trying to help the average person get exposure to rewards from these really out of reach NFTs, right? Like if you
Right.
can't afford $100,000
Mhm.
Star Atlas ship, your options are either find $100,000 for it or don't get exposure to it currently. And so what Arcade provides is the ability for you to get, with one xArcade token, your percentage share of that $100,000 ships rewards.
Mhm.
Now your reward might be 0.0001%, but the point is that barrier to entry has been lowered basically to the ground. As far as maximums go, we are going to have like an anti-whale measure where one wallet will not be able to control more than X percentage of the pool. Because what we don't want is for venture capital or hedge funds or really high net worth individuals to just come in and take up 99% of every single mission pool, because then that's not good for our retail supporters, right? The people,
That's
the small
absolutely
people we are
right.
trying to help.
Yeah, I know,
So
right? That could bug a lot of people for sure.
yeah, and I think the accredited side we're building out is also intended to kind of help relieve some of that pressure as well, because the really high net worth individuals that want exposure will be going into the special accredited mission pools that are separate from your average retail. So that kind of separates the whales from the minnows, so to speak, so that you're not having to fight against someone that has $5 million to deploy into a mission pool or something. As far as the size goes, it is going to vary, pretty wildly based on the circumstances of the activity and the game in question. So we have a lot of different levers that we can pull in terms of how we can incentivize people to get into that mission pool. So, if we need, for whatever reason, for the return to be a little bit higher per person, then all we have to do is lower the total amount of xArcade that can be staked or deposited, because then each person has a larger percentage of the pool per xArcade token, right? So we can kind of tweak that as needed to kind of achieve the desired reward per person or per arcade token. But I think, to answer your question, we have a lot of flexibility there. So, it can really be anywhere from, if the expected or historically based return for that activity is lower than the average we're trying to shoot for, then there will be less xArcade that can be staked in that mission pool. So it'll be a little bit harder to get in, but the reward per xArcade token will be on par with the other mission pools. So we're kind of trying to target that middle ground where everyone can kind of have the same experience. It just depends on what the activity is.
That's interesting. I think I want to just ask you to repeat that last part that you mentioned about, if a pool has less than expected returns, what happens to...
So sorry, not if a pool has less than expected, but if an activity. So like, let's say that a ship mission within Star Atlas, historically speaking, based on what we know about the past, we think that
Okay.
that's going to generate a 20% return on people's contribution.
Okay.
Then we have Alluvium land, and let's say we expect that to be, and this is behind the scenes evaluation that's happening, we expect that to be closer to 100%. Then how can we get that 20% number a little bit higher for people? And how you do that is by limiting or lowering the amount of xArcade tokens that can be initially contributed to that pool. So it's a lever we can pull to kind of raise that return per token a little bit. And maybe it's a little bit harder to get into that mission pool because there's less room in it, right? It's a capped amount. You can't just put an unlimited amount of xArcade into the pool.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's a little bit more difficult to get into those smaller mission pools, but the return is going to be a little bit higher than it would be if you were to go into it with the same quantity that can go into it as, say, an Alluvium land piece. So we basically just have to kind of tweak the economy a little bit as we go. We figure out what people's interests are, behavioral patterns. Maybe we find that people are really interested in merit circle mission pools in the future, right? And they're not so interested in this other guild, then we might have to tweak things a little bit to kind of balance that platform economy.
Okay, so I think in a couple minutes here, I'll ask one more question, and then in a few minutes, we'll open it up to the listeners as well. So last question for me is, who determines like the terms of each pool? Is it the mission pool operators, or is it always Arcade?
So it's a collaborative effort. We have an open line of communication with the guild partners of mission pool operators. So what that would kind of look like is Arcade buys the $100,000 Star Atlas ship. The game guild comes to us and we kind of have a conversation about it. We say, okay, game guild, what do you want to do with this ship? What, based on your experience or your knowledge of the game, what mission pool would best utilize this NFT? There's a little bit of collaboration in that regard. The game guild says, well, we really should do this mining mission from planet A to planet B. Arcade says, okay, that sounds good. Let's start the mission pool for that. And then we calculate kind of based on that activity, historically speaking, with other mining missions from, around the same type of, ship or planetary, range. Historically speaking, what has been the return for that, and then we kind of calculate it based on those metrics. So, the mission pool is generated as using, or I guess leveraging the experience and the skill from the game guild to pair up with the NFTs that Arcade holds in our, kind of in our inventory.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, because they're the experts on the game, supposedly, and you're really just there to facilitate these pools. And then,
yeah, I think it's important to note that Arcade's not a game guild, right? We get mistaken for a game guild all the time, but we're more of a infrastructure, because we're providing this platform layer where game guilds can come to us to leverage our inventory to keep their communities more scalable and provide value back for our community in exchange for that. So, if a game guild is, one capital ship in Star Atlas away from being able to achieve some kind of big mission they need, rather than going and buying that for $40,000, they can come to Arcade and say, okay, you'll let us use that ship in exchange for us giving back a portion of the rewards or the earnings to your mission pool. So we're really a platform that all of the different actors within the GameFi space can kind of leverage against to remain scalable.
Yeah, I love that about you guys, obviously. All right, let's open it up to the community and see what other questions they've got.
Cool.
Yeah, if you want to ask a question, just request and I will let you through. But it's already been a really informative conversation. I think I have a way better knowledge of what a mission pool is and, the people behind the mission pool, what actually creates a mission pool, which is important for investors to know. Maybe JP, like if we're not getting any questions, what do you think is a question that maybe should have been asked, or something that you think is very important that maybe some users just simply don't know?
I think that the main thing that makes our platform really valuable to a existing member of the space is that our platform makes it really easy for you to get exposure to a diversified scope of GameFi without the need to learn everything, right? I think that as gamers or participants in the GameFi ecosystem, I mean, I run this company and it's impossible for me to even keep up with all of the games that are coming to market, right? Like I could not possibly keep up with everything coming out of ASM and Fluff World and Star Atlas and Alluvium and Mirandus, and it's a full-time job to keep up with that. So it really seems like the average person that's just like, I don't really need this because I'm a gamer, like I'm just going to play the game. I think people underestimate how much time really is needed to get the most highly optimized exposure to these games. And that's really where Arcade comes in. We're a platform where, someone can get exposure to Mirandus without ever having to install the game, right? Or learning anything about it, or sitting on the AMAs, or monitoring the Discord. It's just like, it's a very easy, simplified way to diversify your exposure. So, I think that's something that sometimes goes over people's head. We get the people that are like, okay, I see why this is good for someone that doesn't want to do anything, but I'm a gamer, right? So like, I don't need this. I think the gamers are really the ones that benefit the most, because rather than having to keep up with 10 different titles, you can just play the game that you really enjoy. And then the other 9 titles that you want exposure to, you can use Arcade, right?
It's a great point. I totally agree. I mean, this industry is moving just so fast, and there's new games being introduced, and I'm sure that there's going to be new forms of games that will come later on that will require missions, and this is exactly why Arcade exists.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there any questions at all?
I've been told that I cover things pretty thoroughly, like almost to the point of annoyance sometimes. So
Yeah.
I don't blame people if I covered everyone's questions. But
yeah, dude, we should have done this opposite. I should have answered everything, and then everybody would have a lot more questions.
Oh man. No, but I guess a last takeaway, just for anyone that's not in our community already, join our Discord. That's the best way to stay in touch and kind of learn more about our come to market strategy and our token generation event. That's coming within the next couple months. So, staying in touch with our Discord is the best way to, be in the loop, get engaged. We've got some, giveaways and stuff that we do from time to time. Fresco, I don't know if you want to tell them about our little secret rule we have in Discord or not. I'll let you decide if you want to shill that or alpha drop that or not. But yeah, I mean, Fresco, if you have anything else you'd like to say, feel free.
No, I just want to kind of echo that. I'm one of the newest members of the Arcade team, so every time I listen to JP speak, I definitely learn a lot as well. But I think the thing that sold me on becoming a member of the team is that Arcade's kind of for everybody, right? If you think about anybody within a play to earn or just the traditional gamers that exist, right, and those that have made their way to blockchain and blockchain gaming, everybody that's involved in that can benefit from the Arcade platform and our protocol that we've built. And I'm a huge believer in it, and I wouldn't be here if I wasn't. And I just think no matter if you could have the biggest wallet, you could have $1 to your name, and if you can get that dollar to be an Arcade token, you can put that to work for you. So I'm a huge believer in that.
Yeah, it really it eliminates the barrier. We're a big part of our ethos is we're trying to eliminate the barrier to entry, right? So like we see so often that there are people that just can't afford to even get into GameFi, right? It's just like it's expensive, the gas fees between that and the knowledge and the time that it takes to learn about the NFT or the game. The barrier is just so high that that's really one of our main goals, is to lower that barrier, like Fresco said, so that the average person with just if you only have a few bucks you want to throw into the industry, we provide you with a really easy way to do it.
That's great.
And kind of just to piggyback off what JP was saying just a moment ago, what we're doing right now, just to build up the Arcade community a little bit more, is anybody who is not in our Discord who joins in, and let's say this time let's tag JP. If you tag JP and say that you're from this Twitter space, we'll give you guys a special role that is going to equate to some free stuff down the road. So you can do with that what you will. But if you can turn that into Arcade tokens, then you can start earning some money. And we'll do the same thing. We're starting to focus a little bit more on Twitch and putting out visual content. So our Twitch is just twitch.tv/arcade to earn. If you could throw us a follow there, we'll give you kind of the same treatment. If you do both, we'll double up.
That's so dope.
All of the treatment.
Ooh, I love that. I love that.
Awesome.
Thanks for that little alpha there. That little alpha drop. That's nice.
Little alpha drop. Yeah, we've got some cool stuff coming. So yeah, we've got many plans, and we're collaborating with a lot of the best play to earn communities that at least we're a little bit biased, but I think we're collaborating with some of the best, and so we're just excited to be in a position where that actually means something, and we're not just kind of scraping for something to catch traction on. I think we really have a lot going for us. We're backed by some of the best in the industry: Crypto.com Capital, Solana Ventures, KuCoin Labs. There's a lot of really big players and support figures that have realized that what Arcade's building is really needed for GameFi to scale. So appreciate all the support.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We definitely need something like this for GameFi to scale, because there's too many options out there in terms of games that to keep up on all of them and practically like manage those NFTs is impossible.
It's way too much.
All right, thanks so much, guys. That was really great talking to you, and I personally learned probably 60% more than I already knew about mission pools, so I'm very happy about that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can say the same.
No, this was great. I appreciate you guys hosting this and providing this space for me to speak about it. I'm really passionate about what we're building, so I appreciate it. And one last shameless plug, I guess, is that we're doing another Twitter space from the Arcade server in about 20 minutes to talk to Artera, which is a platform that's building on the Near protocol. And we're going to be doing some work with them, I think. So if anybody wants to learn about Artera and kind of how they could collaborate with Arcade, that'll be going live in about 20 minutes from our Twitter.
Yes, sir. Hope to see you guys there. Yeah, super excited to talk to Artera. They're really interesting kind of problem solving, a unique issue that I think people have, monetizing kind of their own platforms. Yeah. So really interesting team. Yeah.
You heard a lot of my voice on this one, but I'm going to make Fresco talk on the next one. So you guys will hear some more.
There'll be a lot of questions afterwards, right?
There you go. You got to get ready for that.
Yeah. I could still listen to you though, JP. If it were me, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, you definitely covered everything that we needed to know for mission pools. And again, it's good that you're able to express it in a way that, you allow everybody to understand it, because that's exactly what you want. You don't want any questions or misunderstanding, and you definitely achieve that goal. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah, happy to be here. I mean, I've been in crypto a while, and I've suffered firsthand from just not being able to understand what a protocol does. So I really try hard to make it relatable for people, because if someone leaves the space and they're like, I still have no idea what Arcade's doing, that really doesn't do us any good. So thank you guys again, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah, good luck with your next Twitter space.
All right,
thank you.
Yeah.
Later,
y'all. Thanks, guys. Later.